Hi. If you're cautious about colour, but you'd really like to try to introduce it into your wardrobe somehow, some way, then this could be the vlog for you. Hello, my name's Laura and you're watching my channel So Very Laura. Welcome back if you're an existing subscriber, and if you are new here through the So Bold Challenge, then you are very welcome. So first off, I know this vlog will be going out on the 25th of August, which is almost at the end of the vlogger tour for the lovely Becki What Beck's So Bold challenge. So I'm not going to talk about all the rules in detail, but I will put the visuals up here so that you can watch them as I'm talking, just in case this is the first vlog that you've watched on the challenge, although I'm sure it won't be. So essentially, the challenge is to sew up something which can be a garment or a bag that for you is a bold make. So that could be in terms of using a fabric that you're not used to, using a new technique, introducing a new pattern or colour into your life. It can be literally anything. So you upload a picture of you with the outfit or whoever you've made it for, and you tag Becki and also use the hashtag. So I'll pop those details on the screen and also down below. And you have to do that at any point before the end of August. So not necessarily on the closing date of the 31st of August. So that's the challenge. As I say, there's been lots of lovely vloggers talking about their views about what So Bold might be. And so I'm sure you've had an opportunity to watch them. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to focus on how you might introduce colour into your makes if it's something that you're not used to doing, or perhaps if you are used to doing it, maybe give you some inspiration to think about it in a different way, or at least show you some patterns. So I'm going to talk about colour blocking. So first of all, I think colour blocking is A, really fun, and B, it will give you something that is far more likely to be unique, because the odds of somebody else making the same pattern using the same fabrics, the same colorways, is going to be pretty slim. And it's a brilliant way of using up remnants. And I'll talk about what I'm wearing in a minute, but this is made entirely from remnants. So I think it's a great way to test out a colour on you that you're not used to wearing, perhaps introduce a print if you're not used to wearing prints. And you can be full on, or you don't have to be. So just to give you a little illustration of that before I start, here is a book that my husband bought me, from which I have made absolutely nothing so far. And you can see it's called Boundless Style. And you'll see that the picture on the front is of a colour blocked dress. So it's kind of white with a black, so white bodice, but apart from the sides bit and the skirt, and then a black collar. And I think that looks incredibly striking, but it's only using black and white. It's not using incredibly bold colours. So something like that, and little pops of colour or just a high contrast, particularly if you've got to look smart for work and you can't overdo it, I think is great. So I'm not going to talk about this book. I will put the details down below, but I thought it was a nice illustration of how using really quite basic colours can create a really sharp, focused look. So what have I got for you today? Let me just pop that book down there. I have got for you today 10 patterns which all introduce colour blocking in some way. Some are indie patterns, some are big four. And then I'm going to finish by talking about whether you need a pattern to colour block at all. So let's start off then with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Rivi blouse, and I'm not going to talk about this for very long because I reviewed it at length in my last vlog, so I'll link that vlog down below. It's by Chalk and Notch, and it's one of those patterns that I would say has been designed with colour blocking in mind. So if I show you the picture that's on the front of the pattern, you'll see what I mean. So here, this is Chalk and Notch. Did I mention that? You can see that the yokes are they're using the same fabric, but they're using the stripe in the opposite direction. And then on the back, you have asymmetric yokes. So I'll show you on the back there. And again, you could put those in the opposite direction, or you could use two different fabrics. So on mine, what I've done, hopefully you can see, if I just stand up a tiny bit, what I've done is I've used two very different fabrics in terms of the design of them. So this one is the Lady McElroy Cotton Lawn Tokyo Nights, so it's all its buildings, a city scene. And then this is Fabric Godmother, I think it's called Linear, and they launched it when they did their Fabric Godmother peony dress, and I've actually made that dress in that fabric. So I had remnants of both of these, so I've alternated use of the fabric, and you can see at the back, hopefully. I will put some better pictures in so you can see, but I've used the two fabrics together to create a different look. Now, obviously, this is quite extreme, and it's certainly not a subtle look. But if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I do tend to quite like bright colours. But it is an example of a pattern where you can pick it up and just play around with different fabrics and different looks to decide what it is that you would like to achieve, and just experiment with a little bit of colour. If you love, for example, mustard, but you don't think it looks great next to your face, you can put it lower down. You can put it on the plackets. You can put it on the sleeves. So you get to wear a colour you really love without thinking, goodness, is it washing me out? Do I look dreadful? So that's the first pattern. That's the Rivi by Chalk and Notch. Next up, and you can see I've got a little pile behind me, is the Vogue, and that's V1733. And I picked this one out. I've had it in my stash for ages, but I really want to make it kind of along the lines of View D, or even View E, which is down there. So you have colour blocking. If I show you the line drawings, it's even clearer. You can see there's View D and there's View E. So you can do different elements of the top in different fabrics, different colours. And again, I would say this is a comparatively easy way of colour blocking, because it's whole pieces of the garment that are created for you with the suggestions of how and where to colour block it. So this is so the Rivi is a woven top. This is for knit fabrics. It says it's unsuitable for obvious diagonals, but anything like, cotton jersey, viscose jersey, anything like that would be fine. So I think, although, yes, it's big four, I think it would be reasonably easy to make, because I think it'll just sew up like any other knit top, really. And I like it, and that is definitely one that I want to try as soon as I can find some fabrics which go together or contrast really sharply. And I need to focus on that a bit more, because it's sat languishing in my stash for 2-3 years, I would think. So that's the first one of the big four patterns. Next up, another one along the same lines. Again, this is sat in my stash for ages. It's probably one of the patterns I first got, and it is a Butterick Fast and Easy. And again, it's a one that's made for, well, it says crepe, tweed, gabardine, and ponte knit. I suppose I can imagine it made in a woven. I'd always thought of it being made in something like a ponte, but you can see again here you've got the contrast yoke, contrast cuffs, and you can also do it in a long sleeve. So you've got designated, and it's even got one view with a collar on. So again, you've got designated parts of the pattern that you can choose to put in different fabrics or different colours depending on what you want. So you could go, for example, for a black and white version of the dress like I just showed you, or black and red. So you just have say the white on the collars and the cuffs, or red, and then the whole lot in black, and it would look incredibly striking. So this shows you don't have to use every single opportunity for colour blocking within the pattern. You can pick and choose. So that is pattern number 3. Next up is one that I have made, and I made it quite recently. I went on a sewing retreat with a lot of other lovely vloggers back in May, and this is one of the things that I managed to get made up while I was there, and this is McCall's M7874. So here is my mate, and you can see that what I have got is it's got a kanga pocket there in pink, but then the sides of the garment are sewn in this blue. There you go. And I've done the hemband in blue, the cuffs in blue, but the neckband in pink, like the rest of the top. It's more or less view D, but that one. But I changed the neckline to the view A1, and I didn't do the long cuffs, so because they've got thumb holes in, and I didn't think it would be as practical. And again, I'll pop some pictures in of that, and I'll link to the vlog where I talk about the pattern in more detail. So that is one that I can vouch for, having actually made it. So that is pattern number 4. Pattern number 5 I don't own, and it is the Tilly and the Buttons Drew. And this is a raglan sleeve sweatshirt, and again I'll pop a pic in, but you can see that this is one where you can just treat it as a plain sweatshirt, or you can put colour blocks in and block out different parts of the sleeves. So again, you could do as much or as little colour blocking as you want. You could put, I don't know, leopard print with plain, have different accents on it. And Tilly and the Buttons, as I'm sure you probably know, but if you're fairly new to sewing, her instructions are really good. And so she really holds your hand in a way that, you know, on average, the big 4 don't. So if you're quite new to sewing, then I would say that that is one that you might like to consider. So that's number 5. The next one is again one that I own, but I haven't made it. And this is another big 4, and it is M8448, and it is this asymmetric style jersey dress. And I really like this. I can't remember where I saw it. I saw it, I think, on YouTube, might have been on the fold line, but I'm not sure. And I bought it almost immediately. And I really like the colour block version. And I was going to make it. And then I essentially, how can I put it? I bottled it basically, because I was really bothered that because it is quite a clingy style, I would bother it would cling to me in all the wrong places. And so I've not made it. And I think, you know, that was nothing to do with the contents of this vlog, but it was a kind of body confidence issue. And maybe now I would feel like making it. I still love it as a dress. My husband, I showed him and he thought it was awful, but then he wouldn't be wearing it. So again, you can see that there's lots of different ways that you could do this. You could get the same fabric, do it with stripes. You could do it with 2 different types of stripe, narrow stripes, wide stripes. The sky's the limit, really. You could put a pattern at the top and the bottom and a plain bit in the middle, or vice versa. So again, I think it would be great for remnant busting, maybe using up bits of fabric that you're not sure about. So yes, and I think that's what I should do. I think I need to get some pieces of fabric either in a sale or that just are languishing in my stash and that I don't love, and get on and give it a go. So if and when I do that, I shall report back. So there you go. That is the McCall's M844. Onto an indie pattern now. And this and one of the other ones I'm going to mention, these are patterns that are colour blocked, but they are by no means the only ones on these companies' websites. So the first one is my first of the 2 free patterns, and this is the Matchy Matchy Sewing Club's colour block set, which is free. You just have to sign up. So I imagine you're going to get emails if you do that, but I'm sure you could sign up, get the pattern, and then subscribe. I haven't done it yet, I probably will. But this is completely free, and you get a choice of either making a straight top or a top with a peplum or a dress. So lots and lots of options, and they are colour blocked. So I'll put some pictures in here. And I have seen a lot of I haven't ever bought any, but I've been so tempted a number of times. Matchy Matchy Sewing Club patterns on the fold line. The fold line do stock them, but you can, I think, get them direct from the website as well. And I think they're great. And they've got some barrel leg trousers with tons of seams on, which I have looked at a time or two. I don't know whether I'm quite brave enough to try them yet, but they would offer, because they've got so many different seams, they would really offer a chance to colour block to your heart's content. So as I say, there is this free pattern, so you've got this no risk offer that gives you a chance to try the matchy matchy block, gives you a chance to do some fairly bold colour blocking, you'll see from the pattern pictures, and see what you think. And then if you like it, you have got the whole of the matchy matchy website to go at to find yourself some other lovely colour blocked patterns. So I'm a big fan and I really need to do this. So that is suggestion number 7. On to number 8, and this is another indie pattern company that does a ton of colour blocking designs. So I have made, and when did I make this? I think I made it towards the end of 2025. I made this, and this is the Eliam Mac So Scrappy top. And the only change that I made to it was I changed the neckline, and instead of doing the top from the pattern, I put on can't talk, hang on, sorry, I put on a collar that was from a butterick pattern that I've got. So I just changed out the collar to this one because I thought it added a bit of interest. I have a very accurate label in this because it says I was not made to be subtle. And what I've done with this, all these pattern pieces are as suggested in the pattern. So you've got this carve up, if you like, of both the front and the back. I'll show you the back. So the back's a bit more simple. The back is just 2 halves. So you just cut it out like that. And I have used up a ton of fairly largish remnants of basically French terry thickness jersey. And one of the reasons I really like wearing it is because it reminds me of the times that I spent making all those other tops, and actually in a lot of cases sweater dresses. So this was a sweater dress, that was a sweater dress, that was the pogo nip, and this was a Jara sweater, and the one on the back, that was a sweater dress. And then you can see on the sleeves they've just got these little pieces sewn on. So if you wanted, you could do all sorts with this. You could almost do a kind of ombre of different depths of the same shade. So you could start with, I don't know, light blue at the neck and work your way down so that by the end you're almost in navy. You could do what I've done and go crazy with lots and lots of different pattern fabric. Again, you can do as much or as little as you like with this. I really like it. I wear it a ton. Sorry, I'm getting my arms all over the place. I really like it. I wear it a ton, as I say, in the autumn winter time. The only thing I would say is if you need to lengthen it, which I did, you need to be a little bit careful because some of these are quite strange shapes. So you just have to be careful and remember to lengthen all the corresponding pieces at the point where I think I lengthened it somewhere in the middle there. And so you just have to remember, obviously, to do both and then to lengthen your back pieces as well. So it's not as straightforward, but it's fine. It is absolutely fine. Just practice with your pieces, or maybe trace it out in Swedish tracing paper and then try sewing those up just to make sure before you sew up your fabric. Because, sorry, excuse me, remnants can be precious. So if it's all you've got left of your fabric, it might only be a remnant, but it might be a precious remnant. So yeah, just just be careful if you are sewing it with fabric that you can't replace and you've needed to lengthen it. But Ellie and Mac do a lot of colour block type patterns. I have got a couple of others, but I'm not going to talk about them here because one of them you can now only get in a kind of like a bundle of patterns. And the other one I can't find on the website at all, but they're just ones essentially where the front bodice is it's cut either horizontally or vertically. And I'm going to talk about how you might do that in a minute. But I'm not going to talk about those since you can't get them. But do go and have a look at the Ellie and Mac website because they have lots and lots and lots of colour block designs. So that is my Ellie and Mac, and that was suggestion number 8. Up for number 9 is my other free pattern, and again this is an indie pattern as you might expect, and this is from Maison Fauve, who actually have quite a few free patterns and also free add-ons to their paid patterns, and I don't think you need to do anything to get this one. And this is the apart from download it obviously, this is the Cedra cami, so I will put a pic in here, and it's really quite intricate for a free pattern. So it's lined and it's got bust darts, and it has a, as you'll see in the picture, it has a V that comes to a point like that, the yoke. So the yoke's up there, and then the top bit, so the top bit forms a V, and then there's a kind of inset there. So again, lots of opportunities for contrasting colour blocking, and you'll see that from the pictures, and then it just ties at the shoulders. So if you're going on holiday and you want something nice and bright, and again you could make that look really sophisticated depending on how you colour blocked it. You could make that look incredibly sophisticated and it would look great on a night out. So that is suggestion number 9. And last, but by no means least, and this is the only pattern that I've taken that comes out of a book, but I just wanted to show you it because it is one that is one of my plans, and I have actually got the fabric for this. So what I will do is, when I'm editing this, I will get out the fabric that I've got and I'll take a picture of it so you can see. But this is in the Back to Basics Great British Sewing Bee book, which is the 2024 edition, which I was given for my birthday that year. And it is this colour block dress. And again, this is jersey. And you can see it's got these kind of bold stripes going through, which are mirrored in the sleeves. When I make it, I am not going to make the sleeves like that because they're elasticated and I think they look horrible. I think they ruin the look of the dress. So I'm not elasticating sleeves. I will just hem them, and I might make them a bit longer. But you can see it's got kind of predominantly, for them, they've got predominantly white there and then orange and then this pinky bit at the bottom. So that is definitely a plan for some colour blocking. So again, something that hopefully, if you stick around and watch my videos, which I hope you will see made up. So, and I think I'd quite like to do it with longer sleeves for the winter if I've got enough fabric. If I haven't, I'll just colour block another end onto the sleeves. So that is my 10 suggestions of patterns. So I've given you 10 patterns, mix of indie and big 4, and 2 are free. So that isn't bad going really. And as I say, if you go on the Ellie and Mac website and you go on the Matchy Matchy website, you will find a whole host of colour blocking patterns. So if you are nervous about doing colour blocking and you'd rather do it by following a pattern, hopefully I've given you a lot of inspiration as to places you can look to do that in a more, shall I say, risk-free way. And I do hope that you will try that because I think it is a lovely way of just being able to introduce just a little bit of colour if you've tended to fight shy of it. If you've been watching me a while, you'll know that I like bold fabrics, and if you've not been watching me a while, this is fairly typical. But there was a time my mum told me that she thought she basically had to prize me out of black. And I think probably that was in my 20s. I think I wore quite a lot of black, but I hadn't even realised I was doing it, and it was before I started sewing anyway. And I'm definitely so bold in a way that I maybe wasn't by bold. So, however, I'm also here to tell you that you don't necessarily need to buy a pattern to colour block. So if you're thinking you'd like to try this, but you don't want to spend a ton of money on doing it, have a think over the patterns you've got. And I would almost say to start off with the more basic, the better. So a basic sweatshirt, a basic t-shirt, and think about, can you change the sleeves up? Can you split out the bodice part or the sleeves so that you can do different colours within that part of the fabric? So all you need to do is trace out your pattern, make the cuts at the point you want to insert different bits of fabric, and then remember at the point you cut you need to add the seam allowance onto both pieces, and that's how you can then safely make your cut and know that your garment is still going to fit you. So I have made the Tilly and the Buttons Nora a number of times in fleece. You just have to make sure that you do the neckband wide enough that you can get it over your head, because obviously it's a more rigid fabric. So I've made it in the basic style. It's got a drop shoulder and long sleeves. I've made it in fleece a good 4 times or so for me, and I've also made it a few times for my mum, but my mum didn't like the high neck. So what I did with hers was that I cut the collar and cut the front in half, added seam allowance and inserted a zip. And so essentially these are all the fabrics that I used when I was making my various versions of the Nora. And so what I did on the front, I had quite a big bit of the rainbow left, and I had quite a big bit of the leopard print. So I simply took the bodice, cut it down the front and added on a single seam allowance. The sleeves in the unicorn fabric are exactly as they were originally. And then on the back, in order to use up the fabric, it's actually in quarters. Can you see that? Again, I will put in a picture. Can't work out what you're seeing. Yes, hopefully you can see that. So I have got 2 lots of the rainbow, and then I've got the purple and the unicorn again. And again, all I did was made the curts, add the seam allowance and sewed it up. And so you can do that with any basic pattern. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy a pattern in order to enjoy the art of colour blocking. So I hope you found that helpful. If you are interested in more patterns for colour blocking, do please let me know, because I can quite happily, doing my research, digging through patterns, I've got other patterns that you can use for it. But I tried to keep it reasonably short, and I can very happily do another version of this with more suggestions for colour blocking if that's something you would like. So do please let me know which of the patterns you like the best, whether you're going to try any of them, whether you've done some colour blocking, and whether you have some suggestions for anyone else. And if you're new here, I really hope you've enjoyed what you've seen and that you'll consider coming back for more. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.